They say water is life, but water is also a teacher, a quiet philosopher that has moved through time long before we did, whispering truths into the rivers, hiding wisdom in the tide, across civilizations from the peaks of ancient China to the marble halls of Greece. Great thinkers observed water, not just as a substance, but as a symbol. And today we return to their words to learn 5 timeless lessons on life, love, and letting go. In Taoism, water represents the Tao, the way. It flows effortlessly, never forcing, never resisting. Lao Tzu taught that in stillness we gain clarity. When we stop struggling to control or fix every detail, things begin to settle. Like a pond disturbed by a stone, the mind becomes chaotic when we interfere, but left alone, it returns to peace. So let stillness be your strength. In your still moments, not in your hustle, you will find answers, intuition, and peace. In an old Chinese village, there once lived a wise farmer, and one day his only horse ran away. His neighbors exclaimed, "What terrible luck!" But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." The next week the horse returned and brought with it 3 wild horses. The neighbors rejoiced, "What wonderful luck!" And the farmer answered again, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown off and he broke his leg. "What awful luck," the villagers said, and once more the farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, the emperor's army came through the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man to fight in a distant war, but the farmer's son was spared because of his broken leg. The neighbors gasped, "What great luck!" And the farmer, as always, said, "Maybe." This story, like Lao Tzu's wisdom, shows us that when we remain still, not rushing to label something as good or bad, clarity will show up on its own. Just as muddy water clears when left undisturbed, life reveals its meaning when we stop reacting impulsively. Stillness is not inaction. It's the patience to see beyond the moment.
Your mind be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Though not an ancient philosopher, Bruce Lee borrowed from the wisdom of the East. He reminded us water takes the shape of whatever holds it. It could be a cup, a bowl, a riverbed. When we adapt without losing our essence, we become unstoppable. Flexibility is not weakness. Flexibility is mastery. Whether life offers a challenge or a change, become the vessel, become the flow. Stay true, but never rigid. In 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded just 73 seconds after takeoff, unfortunately ending the lives of all 7 astronauts aboard. The cause? A tiny piece of rubber called an O-ring. Now, the engineers had warned NASA these rubber rings would become brittle in cold weather, but leadership just didn't listen. They stuck to the schedule. They were rigid in their timeline, in their expectations, in their pride. They did not adapt. And when the cold morning air met that rigid ring, it cracked, and with it, so did everything else. Failure to adapt, to be flexible, to become the vessel is just one interpretation of this tragic tale. When we become fixed, when we refuse to shift with what life presents, we become fragile. we break under pressure. To survive and to thrive, we must flow and not freeze. Think of a relationship as a bridge between two hearts. And now imagine one partner is like a tree that sways with the wind, flexible, curious, forgiving, but the other is rigid, unyielding, always needing control, certainty, and things done their way. What happens when storms come? The flexible one adjusts, the rigid one resists, and eventually the bridge begins to crack. One day, something small, a forgotten text, a difference of opinion, a delayed reply becomes the final blow. Not because it was massive, but because the relationship had no room to move anymore. What could have bent broke. Water doesn't resist, it adapts, and that is why it endures. In relationships, romantic, platonic, or even the relationship with yourself, love needs space to shift, grow, and be imperfect. If you want something to last, let it flow. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Throw a stone into water and it ripples endlessly. So too do our thoughts, actions, and emotions ripple through time. The Stoics believed in the power of inner discipline. They taught us to observe our reactions, to pause before acting, and to be responsible for the energy we send out. You are not just experiencing the world, you're shaping it moment by moment. Like water touched by wind, your emotions ripple outward. And let those ripples be gentle. Let your presence soothe and not stir. In 1914, a young man named Gavrilo Princip made a decision that changed the entire world. He assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. In that one moment, a single shot sent ripples across Europe. Within weeks, World War I had begun, over 20 million lives lost, and decades of unrest that would echo into World War II. One action, one ripple, in a tidal wave of consequence. Marcus Aurelius believed we must master ourselves because every thought, every reaction, no matter how small, can echo across time. We are the stone, we are the ripple, and we are the shore it eventually touches. Now imagine this. You are in a relationship and you say something hurtful in a moment of anger. Now you didn't mean it, but you also never apologized. And your partner, they carry that hurt quietly. And now it shapes how they speak to you, how they trust you, how they show up. That was one careless ripple, but now it's become distance. Distance becomes resentment, and suddenly a relationship you loved is sinking. Not from a storm, but from tiny little waves that you did not even notice. With life as short as a half-taken breath, don't plant anything but love. Rumi spoke often of water, the way it dances, the way it carves and softens. He saw love as water, patient, constant, yet quietly powerful. Water doesn't rush to erode a mountain, it just simply continues. In a world obsessed with urgency, this is radical. Gentleness is not the absence of power, it is the highest form of it. So keep moving, keep loving, keep showing up with grace. One drop at a time, you will reshape your life. The Grand Canyon, one of the most awe-inspiring natural wonders, wasn't carved by explosions, force, or violence. It was carved by gentle, persistent water. The Colorado River flowed day after day, year after year, until the stone gave way. Not with aggression, but with time, with devotion. That's the quiet miracle of consistency. In Japan, there's an art form called Kintsugi. It's the practice of mending broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding cracks, they honor them. Each fracture becomes more beautiful, more valuable. It's a metaphor for love. When you show up with soft hands, not sharp ones, you don't break people. You allow them to feel safe enough to heal. You allow them to feel safe enough to return love. And like water, smoothing shattered stone, love fills the cracks and makes something stronger than before. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. Heraclitus believed that change is the only constant. The river you see today is not the river you saw yesterday. So why do we cling to what was? To live like water is to surrender, to trust the current, in other words, to trust the process. It means releasing the version of yourself that no longer fits. It means knowing that the people who drift from your life were not meant to stay for the whole journey. Water never questions where it's going. Water just moves. Have you ever watched a leaf float downstream? And have you ever noticed that it doesn't cling to the branch? It doesn't fight the current. It simply lets go and is carried. Sometimes letting go is not a weakness. Sometimes it's wisdom, and it's the beginning of a softer, freer chapter. No, we've all done this. We've held too tightly to someone who was drifting. We texted again when they stopped replying. We tried to reignite a spark that had long turned to smoke. But water teaches us what flows away is not a failure. It's just space being made for something new. Etty Hillesum was a Jewish woman in Nazi-occupied Amsterdam. She was a writer, a seeker. She was a soul ahead of her time. And as the world fell apart, she turned inward. She didn't run from her pain. She wrote through it. Like water, she reflected. Like water, she flowed. Even when she was sent to a concentration camp, she did not harden. She said, one should be able to lose everything, including one's inner certainties, yet still feel good about being alive. Etty, unfortunately, lost her life in Auschwitz in 1943, but her words flowed on. Her diary, An Interrupted Life, is now read around the world. Like a leaf on the current, like a river that never stops becoming. Sometimes the people we lose, the jobs we outgrow, the versions of ourselves we must release, they are not all tragedies. They are tides. Living and dying, sorrow and joy, the blisters on my feet and the jasmine behind the house, the persecution, the unspeakable horrors. It is all as one in me, and I accept it all as one mighty whole and begin to grasp it better, if only for myself, without being able to explain to anyone else how it all hangs together. I wish I could live for a long time so that one day I may know how to explain it. And if I am not granted that wish, well, then somebody else will perhaps do it, carry on from where my life has been cut short. And that is why I must try to live a good and faithful life to my last breath, so that those who come after me do not have to start all over again, need not face the same difficulties. Isn't that doing something for future generations? So what does it mean to be like water? To be soft in a hard world, to move without losing yourself, to pause, to listen, to adapt. The ancients saw water not as passive, but wise, not weak, but invincible, and perhaps you are being called to remember this too. Be still, be shapeless, be rippling with intention, be endlessly becoming, be water. And with that being said, thank you for watching this video. I truly do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I trust you'll give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more content just like this one. So, how did you like today's video, and what video would you like to see next? You let me know in the comment section down below. I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Toodles.